14th chapter of the book of Yeshaya. Yesterday started a second section of the book, Yeshaya as Navi Le'amim, a prophet predicting what will happen to the nations that surround Israel. It began with the Masa Bavel, the burden, the horrors that will happen to Babylon. Babylon, as we pointed out yesterday, was just a small little empire at the time of Yeshaya, growing. But for whatever reason, he revealed the burden, the destruction of Babylon that will happen. That's where we continue in chapter 14, the end of that first prophecy, continuing into a second one or related one. Right, with that destruction of Babylon, God will pardon Yaakov. God will choose Israel. Right? It's almost like God has said, based upon what's being said here, he has for a period of time, he's moved away from his special relationship, we'll put it as such, with Israel, and now he's got back to it. And strangers shall join them and shall cleave to the house of Jacob. Similar, not as poetic and as beautiful as in the second chapter, where we talked about the beating of the swords into plowshares and all of the nations coming up to Zion, because that's where instruction, that's where Torah comes from. But still, it's saying that the house of Jacob will gain and become the central place. And the people will be brought back to their homelands, and Bnei Israel will possess them as slaves and handmaids on the soil of God. And Bnei Israel will be the captors of their own captors and the masters to their taskmasters, right? We were when we were destroyed by the Assyrians, we became, and then the Babylonians overtook the Assyrians, we became the servants, and now we will be the masters. And when God has given you rest from all your sorrow and trouble and from the hard service that you were made to serve, right, from all of the troubles that happened to you. Now, it happened to you because it was your own fault. Then at that time, when Bnei Israel are redeemed, are restored, you can see this maybe being an idea of Koresh, who destroys the Babylonians and first gives permission to Bnei Israel to rebuild the Beit HaMikdash, the temple in Jerusalem, as it says in the Cyrus Cylinder, or as is similarly said in the Cyrus Cylinder in the British Museum. So when that happens, you are going to recite this song of scorn over the king of Babylon, how, right, his oppression ended. Shavar Adonai Matei Rishaim Shevet Moshlim. God has broken the staff of the wicked, the rod, of the rulers, of the tyrants. Makeh Amim Be'evra Makat Bilti Sarah. He destroyed, right? He hit people in his wrath, the king of Babylon. He smashed them unceasingly. Rodeh ba'af goyim murdaf beli chasach. The belabored, the struggling, suffering nations. He attacked in a fury, pursued them relentlessly, right, without stopping. Nacha shakta kol haaretz. Now all the earth is calm, it's untroubled, it's Rina, it's singing, it's cheering, because now that he has gone to his downfall, the king of Babylon, the world is no longer a place of fighting and a place of destruction. Gam biroshim samchulecha arze levanon me'az shachavta lo ya'aleh koret aleinu. Even the pines rejoice in your fate, right? Because the trees are going to be cut down to use for weapons. And the cedars of Lebanon, right? Now that you, the Babylonians, have lain down, now that you are no longer this world power, this dominating power, this destructive power, no one shall come upon us, no one shall fell us, no one shall chop down our trees. A Lorax moment here in the book of Yeshaya, well before Dr. Seuss. Sha'ol mitachat ragza lecha lekrat boecha. Sha'ol below. Sha'ol is the idea of what we might call Gehenna, hell. It's the place you go down to. Those who are wicked, right? Sha'ol everybody was getting ready in Sha'ol. And this is really a great image coming up now. They're ready to greet you. It's all excitement. Orer lecha rifaim kol atudei eretz hekim mikisotam kol malchei goyim. They've come out of the shade, all of the earth's generals, all of the warlords, all of the chieftains, and from their thrones, all of the kings of the nations rise up. And think about part of what's going on here. You're going down, and those people are going up. And right, this is Bavel is going to come and is going to destroy the Assyrians, going to destroy Israel, but then they're going to go down. There's a chapter, you go up, but God is the one who's in charge, not the haughty, not the arrogant, and thus you will be placed down. So now the king of Babylon is on his way down. Kulam ya'anu v'yomru elecha. And all of those kings and all of those generals and the warlords, they're going to turn to you, king of Babylon, and they're going to say, Gama ta chuleita chamonu elenu nimshalta. You also are here with us in hell, in Sheol. You also have become stricken. You become like us. They're shocked. This was the king of Babylon. This was the person who was the world leader, fancied himself a god, captured everybody, destroyed everything. Here you are, down low with all of us. Hurad Shaol Gaonecha Hemyat Nivalecha Tachtecha Yutsarima Umechasecha Tolea. Your sort of greatness has come down, right? The word Gaon has come down to the hell. You're right. You're straying just like the rest of us. Worms are your bed. Maggots are your blanket. Right? If you know Pirkei Avot, where how does everybody end up? Rima v'tolat. Right. Eventually, doesn't matter how great you were, you will be lying in the ground, and you will be eaten by maggots and worms. And so they're saying they're shocked because this was the great ruler of Bavel. Eich nafalta me'shamayim heilal. We're in verse 12, pasuk Yud Bet, Ben Shachar. Nigdata la'aretz cholesh al goyim. How have you fallen from heaven, you shining one, you son of the dawn? How are you felled? How have you fallen down, been chopped down from the earth? You who made all the other nations weak, you who were able to defeat. V'ata amarta vilvavcha hashamayim alem mima lechochvei el arim kisi ve'shev bahar moed bi'arketei tzavot. And you once said to yourself, or perhaps publicly in your heart, this was your true belief, I will climb to the sky. I will be higher than the stars. I will set my throne. I will sit on the mountain of assembly where everybody is, on the summit of Tzafon. Tzafon means north, and here maybe related to a north or a star, the idea. Ele al bomoti av edmele el yon. I will mount on the back of a cloud. I will match the Most High, right? You were the most arrogant, you king of Bavel, Nebuchadnezzar, whichever king it's talking about. And here you are, just like the rest of us, worms and maggots. You have been sent down rather than up. Kedim 15, Achel Shaol Turad El Yarketevor, what I just sort of said. Instead, you are brought down to Sheol, to the bottom of the pit. Roecha elecha yashkichu elecha yitbonenu hazeh ish margiz haaretz marish mamlachot. Everybody's gathered around. They're going to stare at you, and they're going to look at you closely, and they say, "Is that the guy who shook the earth? Is that the one who made realms, who made civilizations, who made countries tremble? Sam tevel kamidbarva arav haras asirav lo patach beita." Who destroyed the world, make it desolate, made it waste, made the cities like wastelands, destroyed towns. You never released the prisoners to their homes. All the kings of the nation were defeated. Everyone in honor, each was thrown to his tomb. Your day al avnei vor kefeger muvas. But you, who thought you were so great, all the kings that you defeated are lying in the ground. But you were left unburied, like a loathsome bird, like a trampled corpse, in clothing slain by gashed by swords, who sink to the very stones of the pit. you will not have a burial like them because you destroyed your own country. You murdered your people. You sort of raised the evildoers. Hechinu levanav. You prepared a slaughtering place for the sons of your nation, mitbach ba'avon avotam, because of the guilt of their fathers. Bal yakum v'yarshu eretz u'malu fnei tevel arim. You did not want them to arise and possess the earth, and therefore you caused lots of destruction. And I will raise up against them, says the God. Savaz, we've said many times, the Lord of hosts, the Lord of the armies, Vichrati levavel, Shem usha'ar v'nin v'neched ne'um Adonai. And I will wipe out from Babylon's name completely. There will be no remnant. There will be nothing of Babylon. That's what God says. V'samtia lemorash kipod v'agmei mayim v'timei tiha b'mat'atei hashmei ne'um Adonai tzvaot. And I will make its home bitter pools of water. I'll sweep it away with a broom, declares God, the Lord of hosts. And just a couple things here before we continue with the chapters. A couple of things. This is Bavel. Think of Migdal Bavel, all the way back in the beginning of the Torah, the Tower of Babylon. Let's make ourselves a name. Let us go up, 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 up. They want to go high. They want to go to the heavens, and that is destroyed. That is brought down. And so that's what happens to Bavel here as well. And a second thing, which is, this is, as we said, this is Yeshaya speaking about Bavel. Bavel was already a country. The Babylonians were a people. We saw that back in the time of later, after this, during the time of Achaz. And later, we would see the Babylonians appear for the first time during Achaz's son's reign, Chizkiyahu. But the Babylon becoming a world power, destroying Israel, happens 120, 130 years after Yeshaya. And so there are many who say that this prophecy was really originally about Ashur. It was really about the Assyrians. And if you go look at the historical record of the defeat and the death of Sargon, the king of Assyria before Sancherib, he was a butcher much greater than his son. He was the one who got rid of, liquidated, who kicked out the 10 nations, the kingdom, northern kingdom, the kingdom of Yisrael. He was the one who came to Jerusalem and then had to run away from there. That was really Sargon. And their historical records seem to indicate that this is basically what happened to him. He wasn't buried. His body wasn't found. And so here it's become sort of a prayer or a Masa Bavel, the burden, the defeat, the destruction of Bavel. But there are scholars and others who have argued that this was really originally said about Ashur, the Assyrians, which would make sense because that was the great enemy during the time of Yeshaya. And then maybe later, to make the people feel better when they were in exile by the Babylonians, maybe it got sort of morphed into being about the Babylonians as well. Continuing in verse 24, and God has made an oath. What I design, it will happen. What I have planned, that shall come to pass. Right? This is not... this is not man plans and God laughs. God plans and it gets done. Lishbor Ashur Bartzi Valrei Avusenu Besar Maleim Ulo Vesubalo Me'al Shechmo Yasor. And here we have Assyria mentioned again, right? To break Assyria in my land, to crush him on my mountain. His yoke shall drop off of them. His burden shall drop from their back. Zota Itzayu Itzal Kola Aretz Zotayara Nutuya Al Kol Hagoyim. This is the plan that's planned for all the earth. This is why the arm is poised over all the nations. Ki Adonai tzvot ya'atzu mi yafer, v'yado anatuya u'mi yeshivena. This is God's plan. Who's gonna mess with it? Who's gonna change it? This is what the divine arm wants to do. It's outstretched. Who can stay it? Nobody can remain. And just interestingly, we'll finish with a couple more verses here. And one other thing about all these tefillot that's I think really significant and important, and ultimately part of Yeshaya's greater message is kingdoms come and kingdoms fall. They rise and they fall. The Egyptians, the Assyrians, the Babylonians, the Persians, the Greeks, the Romans, they all have their day. Right? The century of America, the Soviet Union, who knows what's going to happen in the future? This is not something that lasts forever. Nations rise and they fall, and God is the one who has the plan, That's the one God is the one you should align yourselves with. That's what Yeshaya says over and over again. Don't rely upon other powers, because they'll come and they'll fall, but God will remain with you. Continue the last few verses, verse 28. So now earlier was in the middle of Achaz's life. Now it's in the time when Achaz dies, in the year that he dies. Al tismechi peleshet kulach. Rejoice now, not you, Paleshet. It's probably referring to the Plishtim, because the staff of him that beat you is broken, because from his stock a snake will sprout. Flying saraf branches out from it, right? Without getting into all the details, many of the countries aligned themselves with the Assyrians, and others didn't. And many of them aligned with the Arameans, and others didn't. And the Plishtim were on the other side of the Judean Empire, aligned with their enemies. So now that Achaz is dead, they think they can destroy Israel. So Yeshaya is saying that's not going to happen. The firstborn of the poor will graze, the destitute will lie down secure. I will kill your stock by famine, and I will lay down every one of you, even the last of you. Helili sha'ar za'ik ir namot paleshet kulech ki mitzafon ashan ba v'ein boded b'moadav. Cry out at the gate of your city. You should be terrified. Quake, Philistina, for a strong wilderness coming from the north. And right then, there will be no straggler. They were going to destroy you completely. Umayanem malachei goy ki Adonai yisad Zion. And what will be the answer, right, for the messengers of any nation, especially the enemies of Israel? Zion, Sion, Yerushalayim has been established by God, and in it, all the needy of his people, all the needy of Bnei Israel, will find shelter. You may have defeated them until now, but that defeat, that destruction, that death is very quickly coming to an end. Don't think that now that Achaz is dead, who has defeated you, been a strong king, that you will be able to take control. That's not what's going to happen. That is not God's plan.